There is a kind of pain that doesn't come from losing. It doesn't come from failure. It doesn't come from rejection. It comes from winning. From getting everything you once prayed for and realizing it didn't change how you feel inside. This audiobook is about that pain. The quiet one. The hidden one. The kind people don't talk about. Because from the outside, your life looks perfect. You're doing well. You're respected. You're accomplished. So you smile. You nod. You say you're grateful. But when the noise fades, when the room goes quiet, when no one is watching, there is a strange emptiness. A question that keeps returning. Is this really it? If you've ever felt that, this audiobook is for you. Not to judge success. Not to shame ambition. But to finally tell the truth about what happens after you win. Because emptiness is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that something important is trying to speak. So slow down. Listen carefully. This story might sound uncomfortably familiar. Chapter 1. The Achievement Trap. When winning still feels like losing. Voice steady. Reflective. Gentle authority. Success makes a promise. It says, "Get here, and you'll finally feel complete." So you work harder. You sacrifice more. You delay joy. You tell yourself, "I'll rest later. I'll be happy when I arrive." And one day, you do arrive. The goal is achieved. The milestone is crossed. The dream becomes reality. And for a brief moment, it feels good. Very good. But then something strange happens. The excitement fades faster than expected. The satisfaction doesn't last. And instead of fulfillment, there is neutrality. Sometimes disappointment. Sometimes emptiness. This is the achievement trap. No one warns you about it. Because society benefits from people who keep chasing. The human brain is not designed to enjoy success for long. It adapts. What once felt impossible quickly becomes normal. The salary you dreamed of becomes your baseline. The title you worked years for becomes just your job. The lifestyle you imagined turns into routine. And the mind quietly asks, what's next? Not because you want more, but because stopping feels uncomfortable. Rest feels strange. Stillness feels unsafe. So you chase the next goal. Not out of passion, but out of momentum. You don't know how to stop, because stopping would force you to feel what you've been avoiding. Success keeps you busy, but busyness is not meaning. Achievement gives you movement, but movement is not direction. And slowly, you realize something frightening. You're doing more than ever, but feeling less than before. When people fail, they expect pain. But when people succeed, they expect peace. That's why emptiness after success is so confusing. You think, I shouldn't feel this way. Others would kill for this life. Others would trade places instantly. So you blame yourself. You call it ingratitude, weakness, burnout. But the truth is deeper. Success was never meant to give your life meaning. It was meant to solve problems. Money solves money problems. Status solves recognition problems. Achievement solves insecurity, temporarily. But meaning comes from a different place. And when success is mistaken for meaning, emptiness is inevitable. Most people don't chase success because they love the process. They chase it because they want relief. Relief from fear, from uncertainty, from feeling small, from feeling behind. Success becomes emotional insurance. If I reach this level, I'll finally feel safe. But safety is not fulfillment. And when the external threat disappears, the internal emptiness becomes louder. You didn't lose motivation. You lost a reason. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Many successful people don't actually want what they achieved. They wanted what they thought it would make them feel important, secure, enough. And when achievement fails to deliver that feeling permanently, the mind feels betrayed. That's when people say, "I don't know why I'm unhappy. I have everything. I should be grateful." But gratitude cannot replace purpose, and purpose cannot be borrowed from society's definition of success. The achievement trap works like this. You tie your happiness to future outcomes. Then you spend years chasing them. And when you finally arrive, the present moment has been neglected for so long. You don't know how to live in it. You forgot how to feel. You forgot how to enjoy life without proving something. So even success feels strangely hollow. This is why some of the most successful people feel restless in silence. Why vacations don't relax them. Why weekends feel uncomfortable. Why doing nothing feels wrong. They are not addicted to work. They are addicted to progress. Because progress distracts them from asking the dangerous question, who am I without achievement? Success becomes a treadmill. You keep running, not because you're happy, but because stopping feels like falling apart. The achievement trap doesn't break you loudly. It empties you quietly. If this chapter feels personal, that's not an accident. Because emptiness is not a sign of failure. It is a signal that success has taken you as far as it can, and something deeper is asking for attention. Long pause. In the next chapter, we'll talk about something even more dangerous. Why success slowly turns into an addiction to applause, and why being admired can cost you your identity. Chapter 2. Living for applause. The addiction to validation. Voice calm, intimate, slightly slower than Chapter 1. Most people believe success is about achievement. But for many high achievers, it is actually about approval. Not money. Not freedom. Not impact. Approval. The feeling of being seen, praised, recognized. For many people, success begins as survival. But somewhere along the way, it quietly turns into something else. A way to earn love. Long before success, there was conditioning. As a child, you were praised when you performed. Good grades, good behavior, good results. You learned something powerful without realizing it. Love follows achievement. Attention follows performance. Silence follows mediocrity. So you adapted. You became reliable, impressive, capable. You learned how to win approval by being exceptional. And it worked. People noticed you. Teachers praised you. Family felt proud. Friends admired you. That feeling became addictive. Because it didn't just feel good, it felt safe. As you grew older, the system scaled up. Grades turned into careers. Praise turned into promotions. Approval turned into status. And the same rule applied. The more impressive you were, the more valued you felt. So you kept going. Not because you loved the work, but because you loved the response. The nods. The respect. The admiration. Success became a mirror. And every achievement was proof that you mattered. The problem with validation is not that it feels good. The problem is that it never lasts. Applause fades quickly. Compliments lose their power. Recognition becomes normal. Standards rise. So you need more. A bigger title. A better result. A louder reaction. And without realizing it, your sense of worth moves completely outside of you. You stop asking, "Am I fulfilled?" and start asking, "Am I impressive?" This is why successful people often feel anxious in silence, when no one is watching, when no one is reacting, when no one is praising, because without applause, they don't know how to measure themselves. Silence feels like invisibility, and invisibility feels like non-existence. Social media made this worse. Now validation is instant, quantified, public, likes, views, followers, engagement, numbers replaced intuition. You no longer feel successful. You check. You don't feel valuable. You count. And every time the numbers dip, something inside you tightens. Even when you're objectively winning. Here's the quiet truth. When your self-worth depends on applause, peace becomes impossible. Because applause is never guaranteed. And even when it comes, it leaves quickly. So you live on edge. Always proving. Always performing. Always producing. Not for joy, but for reassurance. This is why imposter syndrome is so common among successful people. Because deep down, you don't feel valuable on your own. You feel valuable when others confirm it. So every success feels temporary. And every pause feels dangerous. Think about how uncomfortable it feels to disappoint people, to say no, to slow down, to choose yourself. That discomfort is not weakness. It's withdrawal. Withdrawal from validation. The most dangerous part of living for applause is that you slowly lose your real self. You become what works, what impresses, what gets rewarded, and the authentic parts of you, the quiet desires, the softer values, the unproductive interests, they get pushed aside, not because they're wrong, but because they don't earn claps. Over time, you become very successful and very disconnected. Disconnected from your needs, from your emotions, from your truth. You smile in public. You perform confidence. But privately, you feel tired. Not physically, emotionally, because pretending is exhausting. Here is the painful irony. The more successful you become, through validation, the more fragile your confidence becomes, because it rests on something you can't control, other people's reactions. And no matter how high you climb, there is always someone above you, someone younger, someone faster, someone more impressive. So the applause never feels secure. Many successful people secretly fear this. If I stop achieving, will I still be loved? If I slow down, will I still matter? If I fail, will I disappear? That fear is not irrational. It was learned. Living for applause turns life into a stage. And stages are lonely places. Because performers are seen, but not known. Admired, but not understood. Clapped for, but not held. This is why success can feel empty even when it looks perfect. Because approval feeds the ego, not the soul. And the soul needs something deeper. At some point, you must ask a difficult question. Who would I be if no one was watching? If no one praised me? If no one rewarded me? That question is terrifying. Because many people don't know the answer. They've been performing for so long. They forgot who they were before the applause. Pause. Let silence breathe. In the next chapter, we go even deeper. We talk about what happens when success doesn't just earn approval, but becomes your identity. And why, when work becomes who you are, rest begins to feel like death. Chapter 3. Identity Collapse. When you become what you do. Voice slower. More intimate. Let silence work. Ask a successful person a simple question. Who are you? Most will answer without thinking. I'm a founder. I'm a manager. I'm a doctor. I'm an entrepreneur. Notice what's missing. They didn't describe who they are. They described what they do. And that difference is where the emptiness begins. At first, work is something you do. Then it becomes something you're good at. Then it becomes something people admire you for. And slowly, almost invisibly, it becomes who you are. Your name gets replaced by your role. Your worth gets measured by your output. And identity becomes conditional. This works very well. As long as things are going up. As long as you're productive. As long as you're winning. As long as you're needed. But life is not a straight line. Projects end. Markets change. Energy fades. Time passes. And when performance slows down, something inside you panics. Because if you are what you do, then what happens when you stop? This is why rest feels uncomfortable. For many successful people, not boring, threatening. Silence feels loud. Stillness feels unsafe. Because without activity, there is no identity. Work distracts you from facing the emptiness underneath. So you stay busy. Not because you love the work, but because stopping would force you to confront yourself. Identity collapse doesn't happen suddenly. It happens quietly. You cancel vacations. You skip rest. You ignore exhaustion. You tell yourself, you'll slow down later. But later never comes. Because slowing down feels like losing yourself. Many high achievers experience anxiety during downtime. Not because they're anxious people, but because they don't know how to exist without being useful. They feel guilty when resting, restless when relaxing, uneasy when doing nothing, because their value has been tied to productivity. Here is the truth most people don't admit. When work becomes identity, self-worth becomes fragile. Any failure feels personal. Any criticism feels threatening. Any pause feels like erasure. You're no longer protecting a job. You're protecting your sense of self. This is why burnout hurts so deeply. It's not just physical exhaustion. It's identity exhaustion. Your body is saying stop, but your mind doesn't know who you'll be if you listen. Think about retirement. Many successful people fear it. Not because they'll be bored, but because they'll disappear. Without meetings, without deadlines, without people needing them. Who will they be? That fear is real. And it comes from a life built on role-based identity. Identity collapse also explains why some people spiral after losing a job, even if they're financially safe. Because money can be replaced, identity cannot. When the role disappears, the self collapses with it. Here is the dangerous illusion. You believe your value comes from your usefulness. So you say yes too often. You overextend. You overperform. And slowly, you train everyone around you to see you as a function, not a human. When identity is built on work, relationships suffer. Because you don't show up as yourself. You show up as your role. The leader. The provider. The problem solver. And when people don't need solutions, you don't know how to connect. This is why many successful people feel lonely even in relationships. They are appreciated, but not deeply known. Because they don't know how to be without the role. The most painful moment of identity collapse is when you realize you've spent years becoming someone impressive, but not someone you recognize. This is not a personal failure. It's a cultural one. We live in a world that rewards productivity and ignores presence, that celebrates output and forgets being. So people grow up believing their worth must be earned daily. But identity is not supposed to be earned. It is supposed to be inhabited. You are allowed to exist without producing. You are allowed to rest without justifying it. You are allowed to matter without performing. Emptiness appears when identity becomes too narrow, when one role has to carry the weight of your entire sense of self. No role can handle that, not even success. Long pause. In the next chapter, we'll talk about another silent cost of success. Why climbing higher often means feeling more alone, and why admiration is not the same as connection. Chapter 4. The loneliness of the top. Success without connection. Voice softer, slower. Let emotion breathe. Success separates, not loudly, not intentionally, but gradually. At first, nothing changes. Same friends, same conversations, same laughter. But slowly, something shifts. Your schedule fills. Your responsibilities grow. Your world expands. And without realizing it, distance appears. Old friends stop calling as often. Not out of jealousy, not out of resentment, but because your life no longer fits easily into theirs. Your problems are different. Your pace is different. Your priorities are different. So conversations become lighter, safer, surface level. Success also changes how people see you. Some admire you. Some respect you. Some are intimidated. And admiration creates distance. Because people stop being honest. When they're impressed, they don't challenge you. They don't open up fully. They don't relax. You're no longer just a person. You're a position. This is why many successful people begin to feel unseen, surrounded by people, yet emotionally alone. Because everyone sees the success, but few see the struggle behind it. Trust becomes difficult. You start wondering, do they like me? Or what I represent? Would they still be here if I lost this? That question changes everything. It makes vulnerability risky. Because vulnerability requires safety. And safety requires trust. Leadership deepens loneliness. When you're responsible for others, you can't always be honest. You can't share doubts freely. You can't show uncertainty openly. So you carry it quietly. Strength becomes a performance. Success also strains romantic relationships. At first, growth feels exciting. More comfort. More opportunity. More stability. But emotional distance can creep in. One partner grows faster. One adapts differently. And suddenly, you're living parallel lives. Together, but not deeply connected. Many successful people don't lack relationships. They lack intimacy, real conversations, emotional safety, being understood without explaining. Because success often puts you in rooms where no one knows what it took to get there. And the people who knew you before are no longer close enough to see you now. The top is quiet. Fewer equals. Fewer peers. Fewer people who relate. You can't complain downward. You can't vent upward. So you stay silent. Here's the painful truth. Being admired is not the same as being loved. Admiration keeps distance. Love moves closer. And many successful people are surrounded by admiration, but starving for love. This is why loneliness after success feels confusing. You're invited everywhere, included in everything. Yet something is missing. Because connection is not about access. It's about presence. Some people try to fix this by staying busy. Others try to fix it by building bigger circles. But loneliness is not solved by quantity. It's solved by depth. The irony is cruel. The more successful you become, the more selective life becomes. Fewer people get close. Fewer moments feel real. Because authenticity feels risky. When your status is high, many high achievers miss being ordinary. Not because they want to fail, but because they miss being relaxed, miss being unguarded, miss being real. This loneliness is not punishment. It is a signal, a reminder that humans are wired for connection, not just progress. When success is not balanced with emotional intimacy, emptiness grows. Because achievement feeds the mind, but connection feeds the heart. Pause. Let silence sit. In the final chapter, we will talk about the way out. Not by rejecting success, but by redefining fulfillment. Chapter 5. Redefining fulfillment. From success to meaning. Voice calm, grounded, reassuring. Less intensity. More truth. Emptiness is not the enemy. It never was. It is not a flaw in your character. Not a failure of gratitude. Not proof that something is wrong with you. Emptiness is a message. And like all messages, it appears when something important has been ignored for too long. Most people think emptiness means they need more. More success. More money. More recognition. More achievement. But emptiness doesn't come from lack of success. It comes from misalignment. From living a life that looks right, but feels wrong. Success answers the question, what can I achieve? Fulfillment answers a different one. Why does my life matter? And those two questions are not the same. For a long time, your life was driven by proving you were capable, proving you were worthy, proving you belonged. That phase was not wrong. It was necessary. But proving is not a permanent state. A life built only on proving eventually collapses under its own weight. At some point, the question changes from, what more can I accomplish? To, what kind of life do I want to live? That moment often feels like emptiness. Because the old map stops working. Fulfillment begins when you stop asking success to do a job it was never meant to do. Success is a tool, not an identity, not a purpose, not a source of meaning. Meaning does not come from outcomes. It comes from alignment, from living in a way that matches your values, from doing things that feel internally right, even when no one is watching. This is why some people, with less achievement, feel more peace. Not because they are less capable, but because they are more aligned. They live from the inside out. Redefining fulfillment does not mean abandoning ambition. It means changing the scoreboard. You stop measuring life by how impressive it looks, and start measuring it by how honest it feels. Fulfillment grows quietly. In moments of presence. In honest conversations. In doing something meaningful. Without posting about it. It grows when your life no longer needs constant validation to feel valuable. You begin to rest without guilt, to say no without fear, to choose depth over applause. This is where peace enters. Not dramatic happiness. Not constant excitement. Peace. The kind that doesn't need proof. Fulfillment is waking up and not needing to escape your life. It's feeling whole, even on ordinary days. It's knowing that, even if everything stopped tomorrow, you would still be enough. This does not happen overnight. It happens slowly. As you reconnect with yourself. As you rebuild identity beyond achievement. As you allow relationships to be real, not impressive. Emptiness fades. Not when you fill your life, but when you simplify it, when you remove what doesn't belong, when you listen instead of distracting. Success can stay, but it no longer sits at the center of your worth. It becomes one part of a full life, not the definition of it. And this is the quiet truth most people never hear. You were never empty. You were just living by someone else's definition of success. Long silence. Let it breathe. If this audiobook felt personal, that's because it was. Because this emptiness is not rare. It's just hidden. And now, it doesn't have to be. Now, let everything rest. There is nothing to fix, nothing to achieve, nothing to become. Just this moment. If you feel a quiet heaviness, let it be there. Not everything needs to be solved. Some things only need to be felt. You have spent so much of your life moving forward, chasing clarity, chasing certainty, chasing a version of yourself that would finally feel enough. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still here. Inner peace does not arrive when life is finally perfect. It arrives when you stop arguing with the present, when you stop asking, "Why am I not more?" and gently ask instead, "What if this is already enough?" You do not need another milestone to earn rest. You do not need approval to justify your existence. You do not need to carry the weight of becoming every moment of your life. Peace begins when striving loosens its grip, when silence no longer feels empty, but spacious, when stillness stops feeling wrong and starts feeling safe. You are allowed to live slowly. You are allowed to choose simplicity over pressure. You are allowed to measure your life by how it feels to live it, not how it looks to others. Success can remain, but it no longer defines you. It no longer demands your soul in exchange for worth. It becomes a tool, not a verdict. And now, there is nothing left to chase. Just this breath, this pause, this quiet knowing. Let this be the moment you stop running toward peace and realize you've been standing inside it all along.